Good morning, I'm Julie Meyer. We have concluded the FTE Winter 2024 and I'm taking some time to spend with Dr. Rajan Kumar, the CEO of Atio Systems. Rajan, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you so much for coming to the FTE Winter 2024 this year. You were the start of the show, what you're doing with battery technology and battery process manufacturing. Wow, what a breakthrough. You must feel pretty good about this.
Yeah, I think there's like two sides of the coin. One is obviously getting technology out there. The other side of the coin is really solving how to make battery develop faster. So, everyone looks at the battery startups, they have so much potential, but if you've seen the past years, they're not really translating into real return. So I think we have to solve that problem in order for the technology to get out. So that's how I see really exciting opportunities to not only the technology, but do it cost effectively.
As an investor, I guess I hadn't realized until I heard you go through your calculations on the economics and what was not working. I thought, why has this not been reported? Why have I not done this analysis? Why do you think that you dug into it and you were able to see there's a fundamental problem with this?
Well, the first thing is, I tried what everyone did. So when we went through the exercise, 2 years ago, we were trying to raise $16-20 million, following everything trend, and it wasn't resonating with investors. And then part of me just run the calculus is like, do I want to wait 2 or 3 years? Like, it's not, forget about the investor. It's like, as a CEO, do I want to just take a bunch of money and just sit there and let the factory get built? Or I want to make money now. And I think that was the key thing. So the real thing was we had to validate it. So, can we actually outsource? Usually people say, don't do that. China, will probably steal. The fact is we tested every element, and then when it worked, and then we showed the unit economics were very positive margins. That was like, okay, this is the way to go. And it's really funny because we even had people in the industry said they tried our approach and it didn't work. And I was just like, well, we've succeeded every time we've done it. And that was the mic drop for in the space.
At the beginning of my career, I was working on the Motorola semiconductor product sector and learned a lot on PowerPC, got completely, Intel Pentium kind of wiped the floor. I've never learned so much as being out-marketed by Intel. But so when you spoke about that fabless semiconductor model, I was like, that will help scale. That gives you the scale, right? And so I was really fascinated by that. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece was the different process, the kind of UV curing. Talk a little bit more about that as a process.
Yeah, so, when I first started doing it, it's all from, I think all the lessons that I'm learning are just from, going through the same exercise. I kind of mentioned I did start a battery company off this world's first printed stretchable. And I was going the path that everyone was doing, trying to use the existing process. Because I figured, okay, that's the state of art. It has to be the best, right? Because people wouldn't be doing it. But when people in other industries were saying, "Hey, we in the ink industry, we don't do this. We don't waste money," and it was mind blowing. In this process that we use today is 50 years outdated. Actually, the story behind it is all those processing that was used to make magnetic tapes for like cameras. That industry just shifted to the batteries because they were killed by the semiconductor. So it wasn't like, oh, that was the best process and we're picking it. It was just, it was just there, it moved there. So, but what I came to find is they're adding this very toxic chemical, provides no utility. So you're adding to your bill of materials, and then you're spending another $3 or $10 million to remove it. And I'm just like, why? It doesn't make any sense from a number wise. So, that's what got me is like, when I was doing the stretchable, I was like, oh, this is far bigger. Like, the stretchable battery might be maybe a $20 million, but like this thing is going to be $1 billion. And if you're going to go work on something, it better be game changing.
So I want to go back to the stretchable and how comfortable you felt about the pivot. But first, what was fascinating to me about the FT Winters, again, we see the disruptors, and really the disruptors are enablers, right? Enablers. But, there's way too much talk about disruption, which is why we call it the shift and financing the shift, because I'm not sure it's disruption at all. It's the inevitable enablement of, and whether the enablement goes over some sort of discontinuity or there's a smart guy like you that says, hey, go another way, not left, go right?
Yeah.
But what I wonder is some of these costs that you stripped out by asking a question or feeling confident to say, no, it's not the way it's been. 50 years, half a century, and then you come along and say, right, not left. Do you think some of those, the fat part of the systems and these processes, do you think they came from the big companies? Do you think that, when batteries, some of these things that get smashed into processes, it can't have been an entrepreneur at some point who was saying, "Oh, I know, let's spend a lot of money and let's do it with toxic chemicals." It has to have come from some company that had too much cash on the balance sheet and it just was doing it in an inefficient way.
Yeah,
What do you think?
it is. Look, I'm an optimistic, so it's hard for me to think that people make the wrong decision. But just playing back the history, I think it was simple. There's an article on it with Sony at the time.
Yeah,
They were developing all those magnetic tapes for all their cameras and so forth. And once semiconductor was killing all the memory tapes, they said, "Oh, we've got this infrastructure, and batteries can leverage the same infrastructure. Let's just build batteries."
I see.
I don't think there was any logic to be of like. I mean, you have to admit though, they probably couldn't foresee how much, batteries are going to be a demand. No one knew that we were going to have billions of phones, and now I need 1 billion batteries to power.
Right.
So I think at the time they were just, I have this asset.
Yeah.
The asset is going to be a paperweight. If I can turn some money out of it.
Yep.
I think that's what happened. But I think in the semiconductor there is histories where innovation is really hard to have these paradigm shifts.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Even in semiconductor, to make those, they had to spend billions of dollars.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. So that's why I say the fabless model is the best way, because it allows the technology to mature properly without trying to sink hundreds of millions of dollars to get it to a point where it's competitive. You can mature it properly. I
want to come back to the optimism, because that was just the recurring thing. Everybody was talking about it, and so we'll come back to the optimism. But I read the press release when you guys are on stage, and when you were on stage, I thought, you're going to be known for so many things. I think the process. No, you are. And the process breakthrough, the fabless semiconductor model. You've integrated a lot of things there. You backed yourself, right? When it got tough, you said you doubled down on yourself, right? So you got your family on board. You get the whole thing, right? And so forth. What do you think your firm is going to be known for most? When you fast forward out 10 years, what do you think is going to be the tagline and say, Actio Systems did X? That was the shift.
Right. I see ourselves as, becoming basically like a 3M for batteries and thin films. It's going to be the multi-billion-dollar company. I think there's a really good line from 3M is like, you go through the day touching 20 3M products. Our view is we're going to be that advanced material 3M where, batteries, solar, we're going to be the manufacturing for those materials, because we can do it faster, cheaper. We are better at putting the materials together, and we're going to keep doing it for every year in the industry. So,
did you speak with Andreas at Lambda Group?
Not as much.
You got to, because printing, right? The whole. So we need to make sure that happens, right? Yeah. That's another thing that struck me too when you were up there and everybody had their samples and their so forth. It's just that they're so small.
Yeah.
I think the common thing of the average person was a battery, big, and you're like battery, piece of paper, thin, and so forth. When did that happen? That the difference is actually going to Indiana. So I think, I love that. The governor of Indiana is like doing high five right now. Coming out of my PhD, came out of one of the top professors in battery, but really didn't know how to make batteries until I actually went to a facility and saw how they were doing it. Yeah. So in Indiana, they have a $15 million pilot facility. When I saw how, outdated, but how simple it is, that's when I was like, okay, someone needs to simplify the battery product. It is literally just making ink and casting it. Obviously, there's a lot of material science, but you have to make it simple. Otherwise, how can you? I think if you keep saying this is like this magical thing that no one can build, I think it's harder for investors and other people to join, because they see it as such a huge barrier. Yeah. Let's talk about your personal qualities right now. And how did you become such a kind of feet on the ground? Where's the ego that typically comes with, I just saved the world and I changed the industry and so forth? Where's that ego? Are you keeping that out there in the car park somewhere?
I feel it's. I mean, I think it's at the end of the day. I'm more results driven. So I would like to scream all these little things that I'm doing, but at the end of the day, I'm more focused on converting it to $1 billion, because that's when the impact will say. So like, yeah, I could say things I want to say, I scream that we should be doing these things, but what I've learned is, whether it's true or not, is that people will really listen when you show results. And so, my view is stay in the trenches, keep working,
Awesome.
Work with the team, and people will recognize the good work when it comes out. That's all that matters. Yeah.
Stretchable batteries. That threw.
Right.
I was stretching my brain to get that concept. What the heck is a stretchable battery?
Yeah, essentially, our lab got funded $5 million by the Department of Energy to build adaptive textiles. So the idea
textiles, cool.
is that what they found is that if you change your thermostat by 1 degree, your energy costs go up really high. And they also noticed, they did a lot of studies since back in the 70s, a lot of offices had male workers, so they designed all of the thermal models based on the male.
I was just thinking, put the men in, absolutely. The girl-boy thing.
There was proof that, often women say oh, it's so cold here. It's because, they had built thermal models for around men. Yeah. So they were saying, okay, what if we build clothing that could adapt to you instead of trying to change the dial?
Interesting.
And so you need a heat warmer in there, you need a battery. Yeah. It needs to be on a low cost. And so I was working on every aspect, and one of it was to develop a printed stretchable battery that could go right into the clothing to power everything. So,
wow.
Yeah. So it was definitely the first world's printed stretchable battery. Yeah. It can be printed right onto the clothing. Yeah. It was heralded as one of the 13 battery innovations that changed the world.
Wow. By who? When was that?
It was by Interesting Engineering. I can share the link.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So
cool.
It shows our battery with the word nano on it. So me stretching it on a clothing.
That's cool. I was involved in a company called Nanomus a long time ago. Rod McGregor. So that's interesting. Now, when people say optimistic, somehow it feels airy fairy or Mickey Mouse or whatever, and people don't realize. I think I put my optimism on like a piece of clothes every day. I got the earrings, I got the clothes, I got the jacket, and then you put regardless of how you feel, you got to go out to the world and you got to say this is going to be the best day, and I'm going to meet the best entrepreneur, and it's going to be this and so forth, because you create what you think, and you exude what and you attract, law of attraction and all that jazz and so forth. When you're hiring people on your team, how important is it when, because everybody, trying to get a job from you, they're probably trying to show you that they're smart. They're probably being a little bit analytical, stroke critical, and maybe slightly negative sometimes. Do you zap them, or do you say delete, bring the next guy in? So
actually, when we first started hiring, I kind of ignored that stuff, I'll be honest. We just looked at the technical. We didn't really see a vibe check, how a person fits in the culture.
A vibe check.
Yeah, vibe check. That's what my CEO does. So now what happened was, we value more that someone is going to work in the team. Yeah. That is more important. We believe that as a company, that if you build really good systems, anyone should be able to succeed in it. Yeah. So we don't need the smartest people, but we need them to work in our system. Yeah. And we have all the tools, everything that empowers them better. And that's what's really exciting about this part is, I think one of the people said, the best part about, I think it was the CEO for Suborbital. He was saying that being a coach, that's kind of my view of it too. There's a very famous person named Doug Campbell. Yeah. He was a coach for Apple, Google. That's how I see myself as a coach for the team.
Yeah. No, Daniel Dalton of Solaris Suborbital. That was a really good quote, because it is the way that Daniel is. He lifts people up and gets the best out of them. By being their coach. And I think it's a good word too, because mentor sounds just unfortunate. It doesn't sound good. Nobody wants to say, people want to say mentor if the person is amazing, but it's a tricky word. And so I thought that was a good quote.
Coach
too.
is a good one.
Yeah, coach is a good one. And now, how many people are there in the team, though?
We're a team of 8.
8. Yep. 8. And I'm based in Indiana. Spent some time in Indiana myself.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I did. Went to school there.
You were saying it.
No. So I've been to Indiana. Know how cold it is. Also know how good the people are. Really, I have to say, that's what people misunderstand about the Midwest. People think some of the best, hardworking, family-oriented, I tell you, great values of Midwest for me is a super, super positive word.
To be honest, when I first there, I was definitely not thinking much of it, but when I got there and I just learned there's so much history there of manufacturing. The first EV car was made there.
Isn't that interesting?
Purdue is one of the top engineering, all my staff, and these guys are like 20 years old. coming in, building production grade battery.
Wow.
I mean, where can you find these kind of people?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Super awesome. Super awesome. So the experience of the FTE Winter 2024 compared to what you thought it would be, and having gone to your first, will you come back? Will you come back to another FTE?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Definitely
okay.
looking for the next opportunity.
And what would you say? It feels like X. It feels like this. I've never been to a thing like this. Just without thinking about too much. What was the feeling of?
I think the biggest thing was this. It was very intimate.
Yeah.
So usually, go to these big conferences.
Yeah.
It's so many people in a small area. We were like close quarters.
Yeah.
Really having to engage with people.
Smushed
you, which I think is really good.
There's
a famous book by Nick Gray about networking dinners, and he was saying, the best interactions are not from far away. It's like when you're right next to each other, sharing a plate. That's when you're really bonding. And I think that was really good.
Good, excellent, good. I'm glad to hear that. We have an opportunity, the FTE, the investors that were here to participate in an $8 million raise right now.
Yep.
And co-investing alongside of you. Other people, and you've raised how much into the firm?
So we've raised 2.5 so far. From our estimate, we have 4 million soft commitments.
Okay. Good.
So we're looking for the other half, and then back to work.
Okay. And is Europe a big market for you, or how do you look at Europe? Europe is, how do you look at the companies? And I introduced you to Sulzer,
right?
And that seems to be moving forward. How are you qualifying opportunities by industries, by geographies? How are you going after it?
Yeah, I mean, initially, before we met, it was kind of Europe was there, but because of transporting batteries is a little bit tough, so we kept it off a little bit focus wise. But things have changed significantly. We see a lot of customers in Europe that are engaging with us.
Good.
And I mentioned this new regulation that is coming through, where we, from our estimate, is Europe is going to start restricting 95% of the batteries that are out there. So we have a completely huge opportunity to change the sales pitch from before it was, I have better energy, lower cost. Now it's, I have all that, but now you don't. I have a solution for your restrictions, and so we definitely want to be very active.
When do you think that will actually come into effect? Is it saber rattling, or is it going to come into effect, that one, do you think? Is that in 2024, or is that?
I think it's going to be 2024. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, what I saw in October, Sweden, Germany, and a couple other major European have already submitted proposal to restrict that. Now there might be an exception for batteries, because like you said, they're passing regulation and they're not giving the industry a way to figure it out. So I don't know how that affects the company, but I think what I'm seeing from Apple, all the other customers, they are willing to make the change. And if we can come in with the solution.
That was huge. When you said that Apple, is that on the QT? Is that pretty private, or is that public?
It's if you go to the website, it says we are committing, like in 2022, Apple says we're committing to transition all PFAS or forever chemicals from our products.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, no, that is huge. Such a difference, isn't it, between there's parts of the U.S. that are making it illegal to put ESG, and then Europe is like, if you don't say ESG, don't want to even have a coffee with you and stuff like that. So do you think that will sweep across America as well? These forever chemicals are really bad.
Yeah, I mean the biggest.
Cancer inducing. Is it cancer inducing?
Yeah, cancer inducing. I think the biggest thing is there's been litigation. So,
God, yeah.
like, if you want
don't
proof,
let the Americans get a hold of that. Don't let the Americans.
If you're talking about real, real impact, money dollars. I mean, 3M and DuPont paid $11 billion last year for these chemicals. So there's now a real price tag. It isn't just policy coming down. People have filed something. So I think that is the combination of people identifying it, regulation, and litigation. That is a perfect storm for us to come in and save. Yeah.
Rajan, thank you again so much for coming in. For people who hear the name Aptio Systems, who hear Dr. Rajan Kumar, I'm sure that they will be thinking, the 3M of advanced materials. Are 3M aware of you?
Yeah, we've talked to them a couple of times. So I won't talk much more beyond that, but they were our first inspirations. So we talked about their business model, how they do things. We learned a lot from them. So,
Awesome. Listen, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Continued good luck and good scaling and all the rest of it. And see you again very soon.
Yeah, we'll do. Yep. Thanks.